Hello everybody. So here we are in the gritty, horrible, disgusting, illegal dumping. Hey look, a toilet bowl. Illegal dumping parts of Albany, New York. We're in the sphincter of Albany, I would say. And Albany is already the sphincter of New York State. This is the asshole of the asshole. So, yeah, hi, my name's Joe, and I'm taking you on an adventure to go see if we can't catch up on what is happening with a set of abandoned trains down here that are kind of like in the forest around the corner, down one set of tracks, then down another set of tracks. So yeah, I'll be going down one set of tracks, I'll be going down another set of tracks. I'm listening to this. Sounds like a train. Ooh. See me and get suspicious of what the fuck, why is this guy down there? So yeah, we've got one active rail line. I don't think it gets a lot of traffic, so I'm happy to see this train roll through now. And hopefully there'll be nothing coming behind it. Judging from the power on the train, it looked like two older EMDs. So that's potentially indicative of a, a slower moving local train working the Port of Albany here. Look at that, you've got one of these heavy load cars. That's awesome. And some sodium hydroxide solution. Yum, yum, yum. So yeah, I'm coming down here because I want to see what is going on with a set of four abandoned trains that have been here for like 20 years, 30 years at least. Recently things have started to change, so you're all well aware of these locomotives, I would imagine. If you're really into abandoned trains or just trains in general, you've probably heard about these two electrics in the woods south of Albany. They're still here so far as I know. There's a museum in Danbury, Connecticut that's trying to get them out of here, but they can't get them out of here because this location is not exactly the greatest. There's not a road going up to these trains, and they have to get them out of here because they're going to be redeveloping the property soon. So what I want to do is I want to see what has happened. I know they've cleaned out a lot of the trees around it. I don't know if I'll be able to get up close because I don't know if anyone's working down there at the moment. But they're redeveloping the property, and I'm just going to take a quick look. I'm going to see what I can see, and worst case, I will post a bunch of photos with this video showing the before state. That's a cool tag. Corpse, Romer, Omega-3. That's a cool tag. So I'm going to narrate some of these tags while we're here, because I like graffiti a little bit. That's a cool one. I can't quite read it, but I see a shark in there. Some of these guys I can't read. Some of them are pretty easy. Like, that's a really wild technical style. Can't read that. This one's obviously used. That one's cute. Some of them are older. You can see how they're like faded and getting rusty. Some of them are newer, like this Dice 2021. That's like 2 years ago at this point. You know, you could really tell a lot about the graffiti just by, if there's rust on it. And how faded it is. Like, this one's a little bit faded. That one's pretty old. Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of graffiti. Maybe I'll do a video about that sometime. But right now, I'm just going to tell you, we're going to take a quick look at these trains and hopefully we'll get lucky. And there we go. Nice mixed bag of freight. I wasn't sure if they actually use these tracks, so it's nice to actually see a train rumble across here just by happenstance. Did not plan it, and that's how some of the best things in life happen. See, I'm really glad that train came through here now, because as you can see, trains head back that way towards the yard yard, I would imagine. And here we've got this really narrow cut, so I'm glad the train came through while it did. So that wasn't, you know, pressed against the wall while a freight train came through. Got some really nice ice formations in here. The railroad definitely blasted a path through these rocks back in the day. And right away, I need to stop and I need to show you, because I don't think we're going to get close to these trains today. Let me show you why. Let me show you what's going on. Look at that. This was a forest. Last time I was here 2 years ago, this was a forest, okay? This is no longer a forest. We've got earth movers, big Caterpillar trucks, excavators, front-end loaders. Got a ton of equipment down here. This track is the one I just came down. This is the other track that I was talking about, that if I walked back down this track, which I'm not going to do right now, that would bring, because I'll be in full view of all of these guys, and I want to get a shot or two. That would bring me kind of close to these guys. So I'm going to have to show you before and afters, because these two locomotives are still here, which is good. It looks like they've been moved, I think, because the black one on the left used to be in front and the gray one was behind. So it looks like they've been moving around a little. That's probably a good sign. There was two other locomotives back here, an Elko RS3 and a GE U25B. I do not see those. So those have probably, looking at how much has changed here, I would imagine those are probably scrapped by now, because I don't know why they would move them and then scrap them. The plans all along have been to scrap those two locomotives because they were just in such terrible condition and not very unique. These two former New York Central units, though, are incredibly unique. So maybe now that there's more, maybe now that they're like grading the ground here and things, the museum people will be able to get their trucks back here and transport them. I mean, those locomotives are pretty heavy. It's going to be, they're going to be a heavy load getting them out of here. But if they've got a road that can support some of these big construction vehicles, the assumption would be, my assumption, is that they will be able to potentially support the movement of these locomotives. So maybe they just build around them and they move the locomotives, and then once everything is finalized and they have like a better supported road, they can get them out of here. That's what I hope is going to happen. I think it's a hopeful sign that they've been moved and kind of placed in a location where they're kind of like not really in the way, but they're kind of, they wouldn't have wasted the time and money to reshuffle them as they have if they were not serious about preserving them. And Danbury RR Museum, a bunch of great people, I'm sure they're very focused on preserving it. So I'm gonna cut this video for the moment. I'm gonna bust out my zoom lens. I'm gonna get a shot or two before anyone tells me I shouldn't be back here. Also because the sunlight's really nice, so it's really early in the morning. It's probably like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I want to get a shot or two and boogie back to the car. See y'all in a minute. Judging by the pace of this work now, like how many people are here on a Friday morning before New Year's, thought maybe it would be quiet. I thought maybe I'd get lucky, but nope. It's just a parade of rock trucks from different aggregate dealers. So they're not even dealing with one dealer, they're dealing with multiple sources for the material to build this spot. Pretty interesting. They've just been going the entire time that I've been here. I've been here maybe 40 minutes, half hour, 40 minutes tops. Truck. Hey everyone, so we're back at the home office and I can tell you a little more of the specifics around the trains that we just witnessed. Those trains were previously fully restored, which is really hard to believe, but it is in fact true. And sometime around late 1980s, they were moved down to where they sat and rotted for the last 30 years. Basically, they were in storage in a shop building owned by a railroad whose name dare not be mentioned. That railroad kicked them out. They ended up in the trains ended up in the forest, fully restored, and you can imagine what happened from there. You've seen the results. So something that I learned just last night when I was doing a little bit of research to film this segment of the video was that the Danbury Railroad Museum, they had the U-25B and the RS-3, which you've not seen a video, but I'm going to show you photos of in a second. Those ones were scrapped at the beginning of December. Both of them were in really terrible condition, and I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a second. The two electric locomotives were indeed moved over to the roadway, so I said they were reshuffled in a video. They were indeed reshuffled. That happened on December 19th, 2022. So progress has been made there. Quite a bit of money was spent to lift them off of the rails onto a better surface where they could potentially be transported back to the Danbury Railroad Museum. So all of that is ongoing. I'll tell you a little bit more of that in a second. Let me tell you about the locomotives themselves. The gray one there is a Class T3A, and it was built in 1926. It is a second-generation electric locomotive for New York Central, running on the commuter lines outside of Grand Central Station into northern suburbs. It was the second generation because the first generation was the other locomotive, the black Class S1 locomotive, which was a prototype. It was the prototype of first electrical prototype locomotive that proved successful, and they built 47 more of them. It kind of kick-drived. When you think about all the electrified lines, especially in the New York City area, a lot of that was made possible by this prototype being a successful model. It was built in 1904. So now let's look back at some photos from the era of when these trains were just sitting in a forest. As I mentioned before, myself and some friends had gone back there and taken some photos 3 years back. So as you can see, the S1 was parked ahead of the T3, but as you saw in the video footage, they were kind of shuffled when they were relocated. So let's talk about the two locomotives that were scrapped. The first one is a former Amtrak RS3, New York Central before that, Penn Central, thus the black paint. It is, at present time, there's over 40 of these things existing, some of them running on railroads not that far away from the New York City area, some of them just preserved in museums. So there's quite a few of these things in existence, so the only thing that made this particular RS3 famous was the fact that it sat in this forest abandoned for so long. There really wasn't anything historically special about it that I've found. If I am wrong, comment below. The other locomotive that was scrapped was a GE U-25B, and there were 478 of those locomotives built. This one was the former New York Central 2510. It was built in May of 1964, and while it could have been nice to see it preserved at Danbury, Danbury already has a U-25B in their collection, if I'm not mistaken. So there's at least 5 others of these locomotives preserved around the country, which is interesting when you contrast that to the RS3s. There's quite a few more RS3s still running, still in use around the country, whereas the U-25B and that whole universal line of GE locomotives back in the day, those were kind of like a forerunner to all of the GE locomotives that are currently running and kind of dominating the rail networks, the freight rail networks of the United States today. So if you asked me, the U-25B had a little more historic gravitas, but again, I haven't seen anything super compelling that this locomotive is all that special, and there are at least 6 other of these locomotives in existence. They are in good hands so far as I can tell. So interestingly, with a lot of the news stories I've seen about these trains and a lot of the internet posts, there's been scant mention of the 2 passenger cars that were also here, and they were also both scrapped. So there were these 2 former DRGW / Delaware and Hudson center aligned kitchen cars built by Pullman Standard in 1950. They were apparently 2 of just 3 of these types of cars of this specific design ever built, and now they are gone. So that is a very unfortunate thing. It was a little hard to get more information about these cars, so if you know more, definitely comment below, because I'm a little curious what is the full history of those cars. It wasn't quite as easy to dig up as all of the facts that I just gave you. So yeah, my name is Joe. I should give you a little more of a formal introduction of who the heck I am for the next videos that come on this channel. So I consider myself an original urban explorer. I can remember a time when I could count on one hand the number of people who call themselves urban explorers. I've been around the block many, many times. I am the administrator of the ltvsquad.com website. You'll find some interesting train content on there, as well as just a ton of photos and content around abandoned buildings and abandoned spaces in the New York City area. So yeah, if you've been to these trains and you want to know more about them, or you want to comment about them, the comment section's open below. If you want to see more of these videos in the future, subscribe and like and do all of that stuff, because the more you do that, the more it's going to encourage me to actually crank out some of these videos. So that's where we're at with these trains. The next step is they will probably sit where they are sitting for a little while until transportation is hopefully arranged to get them out of there. So yeah, if you've been to these trains and you want to comment below with your unique perspective, by all means do. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you are interested in seeing me create more videos similar to this, maybe with even a little bit better production values, subscribe so that I know that you're actually interested in this stuff and that I'm not just throwing a video on into the void. That said, I hope to see y'all soon on the internet. Let's get the hell out of here.